Welcome to the Operator SDK Issue Triage meeting. This meeting will be recorded, so don't say anything you want to be on the internet forever. You don't want to be on the internet forever. So we'll get started by looking through all the issues that currently do not have a milestone. So this first one, support for additional fields or bundle generation when using input dir and customized dir. So basically this is a request to use generate bundle in a way that it might not have been intended to be used. So I've responded and asked a few questions and have yet to see a response. So I'm just going to leave triage support on here. I also have a PR that's open that doesn't quite close this because I kind of want to know what this person's responses to these questions are. But I think it does improve UX for using generate bundle outside of a project.
Can I make a question?
So
Take advantage. Take advantage that you are father of this stuff. Hello.
Sorry, did somebody say something?
Yeah, Camilla's saying something.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I take advantage and to make a question for you? I saw this one. I have a doubt. Like the customized dir is the config dir of the default project.
Yeah.
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 So why we have why the focus is passing CRDs, CRD dirs and customized dir? Should not the CRDs be inside of the customized dir?
The customized directory is the directory containing the customization.yaml specifically for bundles or package manifests. So it's config/manifests.
Okay. And one of the things that he put here is like the examples, the annotations. So T-scheme of the samples, the CRs. What is the parameter that is passed to the CRs?
There's no way to pass the CRs. What the generator will do is look at all the CRDs that it found and match against all resource types that it finds and add them to the examples.
Okay, so for example, if I have a project and I run make bundle, the CSV that you generate, you have the examples coming from the CR. But if I try to use the Operator SDK generate bundle to generate from a project that is not follow the SDK layout, I cannot have the examples because I cannot pass the CRs.
You can pass the CRs. You either have them somewhere on disk in like the input dir or the deploy dir, or they're in the customized builds config output.
Okay.
It'll still work just fine.
Okay, I needed to do a few tests with that as well. Thank you. Thank you for the clarifications.
Yeah, of course. All right, so I'll leave this in the backlog. Hopefully they respond at some point. Set up event-based reconciliation based on changes to non-dependent resources. So it's a question on implementing a specific feature.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's possible to set up reconciliation on whatever the hell you want. You know, it might be more or less convoluted.
I think this might be specific to the Ansible API that the Operator SDK exposes through the watches.yaml file.
Probably. I can take this one on and at least read it over and figure out what we could do about this. It does sound more like a feature than a bug fix.
Yeah. Well, if anything, it's definitely going to be a feature. I think that there's definitely no documentation that says how to do this. I think it is possible though, based on the dependent watches and non-dependent watches setup that you can have in a watch.yaml, but I'm not sure. So
Yeah, if I can remember properly, I think it has a feature for that already in the watch.
all right, I'll put this into the backlog for now.
Yep.
And yeah, if this does turn out to be a feature request, then just add the feature label.
Okay.
Redirect to upstream docs instructions are not clear for end users. Camilla, you want to talk about this?
This one, mine, it's very silly. It's like many folks ask it like, okay, I answered this for more than one person. Already, I think we have some issues raised with comments related as well. Like the person we put in the document, check here the how to use the multi-groups, for example. And then we redirect the person for the Kube Builder documents, but in the Kube Builder documents, all instructions will be like Kube Builder, blah, 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 blah. So for a user, the person probably doesn't know that can just replace a Kube Builder with the Operator SDK. I think we don't need a lot of users doesn't care about the plugin or how the things actually work deeply. So I think it would be nice if we could check the documents and improvements places, like I doesn't know. I put, I think, some suggestion like something, checking the Kube Builder documents because the processes are integrated, so you can replace Kube Builder by Operator SDK and follow the same instructions, something like that, just to clarify this point.
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable request. And even as a follow-up, this is like a pretty big operation, but we should really align the content of the samples between KubeBuilder and Operator SDK. If we're referring people to a like upstream set of documents that talk about a like cron job versus memcache, that can make it even more confusing. So we really should get rid of memcache and just start using the cron job example in our own samples in the Operator SDK.
Then I'm not know if it works, because then you have another problem, because the Kube Builder example, it's nice when we follow there, but it has a problem with Ansible Helm. How we will do the cron job example works for Ansible and Helm? You'll make sense.
You don't think we can?
I doesn't know if it would make sense. Do you know, for example, for Helm, we use a chart to explain how the things works. Like I want to deploy application, because usually people want to make an operator that she deploy manage something. So
maybe it makes sense to just migrate the Go operator then. I'm of the opinion that the samples don't need to be the exact same sample for each operator type, because somebody who's looking at a Helm operator won't necessarily be trying to like also write a Go operator at the same time or like following the same guide. But because the Go operator is building on top of KubeBuilder's operator project, then it would be fine to follow the cron job upstream. I don't know.
I think
it's just a thought.
It's valid. Everything has pros and cons. I believe that the cons is like, okay, I'm using SDK, so I'm using Ansible. This is really common. I'm using Helm or Ansible, but my project will grow up and I will face the limitation. So I want to move it for Go. So it'll be hard for me compare the things, or for us maybe to maintain as well, because then we have different scenarios to,
Are
because
we
it,
linking? Are we linking upstream docs in Ansible and Helm operator docs?
has things that are common, so probably yes. For example, operator scope, we have one document for the three. But for example, how will you, because if it always equals or very similar, I'm doing the same thing with Ansible, I'm doing the same thing with Helm, I'm doing the same thing with Go. So we can easily just cover its caveats. But if you have different examples for each scenario, then we need to cover all details for each scenario, each type. I doesn't know if I can express my idea about the concerns. I'm not against, but
I
it's
mean, the only real change would be not the number of different scenarios, but the technology that the operator wraps in the SDK samples. So we would still have Go, Ansible, Helm, and then for each plugin type, we'd have a different project. But that would only mean we have 4 right now, and we'd have 4 going forward, but it would be cron job. So I think that if we're going to switch any of them to cron job, then it would be all of them. And we can't do that if Ansible or Helm, for some reason, can't build a cron job. But at the same time, like, does it really matter? I don't know. So I think this is something that shouldn't be discussed in the context of this particular issue. It's just something to be aware of that we might want to do to make this kind of like, we're linking upstream docs, just look at these, that transition a lot easier. But maybe it causes too much of a headache. I don't know.
How bad would it be to document some of that on our site?
It would be a very good idea to do that.
Versus
this is a good first step, but also say like the upstream and downstream examples are different. So just replace like this GDK with that GDK.
Yeah. I think it is a really good idea, because if you think about the experience, you are in one tool, and then you click one stuff, you go for another tool. It's a little bit confusing. So I think for many places we could do that, I think you are right.
Yeah, I agree. Most people, when they come to the SDK, if they're using SDK and they come to our docs, it seems weird to be sent off to a bunch of different places for a variety of explanation, because from their point of view, maybe they don't care that it's KubeBuilder underneath. And they just want to get and solve their problems using the SDK.
Yeah.
And we can just copy and paste as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it's too much, I mean, it's okay to send them over for like further reading to get into, I guess some deep stuff, but we should be able to document as much as we can in our site. I don't know. I know it, it's the whole duplicating a bunch of stuff could be out of date with KubeBuilder. That always will happen now. But
for the other side,
as an SDK user, I don't like having to go sent somewhere else, and now I've lost my place and it gets confusing quickly. So
also cannot match the things, because for example, KubeBuilder could be go forward and we stay outdated compared, so would be a little bit strange as well.
I think my suggestion on this might be that for like reference material, it's okay to link to upstream docs or outside of the page, but for like narrative type things, it's bad to like send people off in 12 different directions. So maybe like a hybrid approach where for quick starts and tutorials and that kind of thing, we try to avoid linking off to a bunch of different things. But theoretically there, like you don't want to have a bunch of rabbit holes for people to go down. But then in like a reference section, it's perfectly fine to link off to places. And that's likely the place that, like, reference sections are likely the place that you don't want to be duplicating a whole bunch of text anyway. So maybe that's like a natural cut line.
Yeah, I agree with that. And this is like a priority, important long-term thing, in my opinion. Like, this should definitely be prioritized as a docs initiative. I'm going to throw this into post 1.0 docs as well. Cool. Thank you, Camilla. And I believe you have the next one as well.
Oh my God. Let's see. Okay. It's the documentation about the integration. Do you know, I was trying to follow up and I found it confusing. And I put my suggestion. I think it would be nice. This is one idea. Okay. What I found confusing, if you look in the menu, you have a package manifest. First, I understand that we don't want people to use the package manifest anymore. So this should not be in the first point. Should be like, we should first explain everything with a bundle. And if someone would like to use the package manifest, okay, we need to have the documentation. But we need to clarify what is recommended and what is like the old format, something like that, legacy. I doesn't know what is the best word. Also, I was struggle because it has not the instructions to how to use the tool to work with SDK projects as well. And I think it could be easily, because imagine yourself in the position of the user. Okay, first I want to integrate with Operator Lifecycle Manager. I just discover what it is stuff is. And then I look at this menu, packaging manifest, quick start, what does it mean? Generation manifests and metadata, what does it mean? I think it would be something like how to build, how to validate, how to test, how to upgrade, something more intuitive.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a great idea. I like this organization.
Yeah, you can tell that this, we had package manifest, and we added bundle, and it just seemed natural to add it right next to it. But, now that we've kind of taken a step back and look at it again, you come up with the same conclusion Camilla has, which is, there's a better natural order way of organizing this. So I agree.
I was looking the other place. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think these type of issues that are very specific will help, because we've kind of talked about, we need to reorganize all docs. Well, it's easier to tackle them in these chunks as we're doing it versus just doing all across the board, because we keep saying that we haven't done it, but this is easier, I think, to tackle one at a time.
Yeah. I'm actually going to assign this to myself and throw this into the 1.6 milestone.
I was looking at what we have in the operators lifecycle managed documents as well, and in the community operators. And in many places there, now it's not nice, it's outdated. We could just redirect the users for here. If we have like the sections as well, like how to build, how to upgrade, like just put the link to make the things easier, promote more SDK. This was other motivation.
Yeah, I think this is a good initiative. Yeah, so I'll take that on. Okay, not able to test Ansible operator locally or on K3's cluster. I think I went over this a bit. Yeah, so the problem here is they just threw a bunch of output here. But after Fabian asked for the full logs, I basically found that the Ansible runner is not actually found in the path. And this is more of a problem of like not failing early or not preventing downstream code execution from occurring. So I think this is a bug, but it's not a serious one, which is good. And I think this could be thrown into a milestone if anybody wants to work on this. But if not, because it's not like a critically urgent one, we can throw it into the backlog.
I can fix this for 1.6 maybe.
Sure, was that Rashmi?
Yeah, that's Rashmi.
Do you roughly know what to do here? I think I've mentioned one place where this could be fixed, but then Fabian also said something about aborting early.
Sure, I'll have to go over this again. I'll ask you if I have any questions on this.
Yeah, do that.
Okay.
Thank you. Align Ansible and Helm plugins with the changes made for Golang. Well, you want to give an overview?
Yeah, I assigned that for myself, as you suggest, but I just, when we made the plugins stuff and create all plugins, I remember that we tried to, I remember that in KubeBuilder, I try put the same names of the directors, like the same name of the files to make this easier. And my goal here mainly is like, okay, now we have Go, Ansible, and Helm. We have Go aligned with the latest version of KubeBuilder, and for the with all chains in the Go v3. I have been looking on that, and I believe that all chains are not breaking chains for Helm and Ansible, so we don't need to create like a Helm v2 or Ansible v2. We can just go there and apply. And the thing that why I raised that is like because in my humble opinion, we have a lot of bad side effects if we start to deviate from too much from Go, because it'll be hard, like someone raise one issue. So we work with Go. Then we need to remember that Ansible doesn't have that feature or has a different behavior. They Go, and Helm has another different behavior. For the things that are specific to the language, it's fine. But for the things like the manager configuration, how do you know the things are common, the config, or for example, we decide to do a new plugin to scaffold things on top, a wrapper plugin, and then we need to start to do, if it be Ansible, do this, if it is Helm, do this. So it'll be hard to keep maintaining. And how long we wait to do that, harder you'll be to know the difference, you know, because now it's very hard. We have two proposal solutions in upstream to make this process easier. And or we have a plugin with the base config, then we don't need more to do this update. We will only use the plugin. And the other one that is like a generate config for the base, but it is maybe it'll be more, you'll take more time to go forward. I'm not sure. So I just would like to highlight that for we all be aware, you know, of the problem. I don't know if we can define a process that make it easier, like if we bump KubeBuilder and we update Go, we try in that bump, check the difference and try to apply for Helm and Ansible in the same pull request, if he be able to.
One thing I would throw into this is that I can see why it looks like a problem because they're currently maintained by us in the same repo. But if you looked at it from Ansible was maintained by the Ansible team in a separate repo, the Helm plugin was maintained by some other group, the Java one is done by another group, would the same issue still apply?
I believe that yes, and I believe that it was one of the concerns that we could not split the repos, because if we start to develop, because we have the tool SDK, okay? SDK, you will scaffold like nice, cool plugins on top to do things on top. If Ansible and Helm has the base, the configuration, where it has the customized, the CRGs, the samples, different, how SDK will make a plugin that will work for all? How will you support like many languages? How will you support the hybrid, so many projects? If the base, they don't have something common, how hard it is will be, and how hard you'll be making the documentation, about it. The things that are specific is one thing, but and the things that are common.
I can agree that having a common config and some common directories across the board makes sense.
Which is common between them, just to clarify. We have, if we can open the test data, Eric, please, just to show this tutorial. If we check which is common is the config director, where it has the customized, and the build in SDK, we have the bundle is common, and the config is common, the scorecard is common, everything that is a customization of the tool. Imagine if we have like 10 languages to support and make SDK create plugins on that. We will need to have 10 wrapper plugins to integrate with Operator Lifecycle Manager instead of just one, because all for integrate the project with Operator Lifecycle Manager, we need just to check the config director, the CRGs, the CRs,
Is the config,
Well,
I was going to ask, is the config directory versioned at all?
no.
Not now, but
Okay.
we have a proposal in Kube Builder, like if we have a config-based plugin. So the plugin would be just what is common for any project. So the community could create, the Kube Builder community could create other types as well.
So what I'm trying to get at is that having them in common without some sort of either versioning or requirement is going to be hard. I think it would have to be part of either the plugin specification that says the config needs to look like this, and here is something, because otherwise, right now, the fact that we were able to create these close but not exactly the same, without
now
having that specification, plugin developers will create these things like that.
Yes.
I was just going to say,
sorry.
So Camilla and I were talking about this last week. There's Philip Whitrock has a proposal in KubeBuilder for something called ConfigGen, which is basically like a customized plugin / separate command line tool that integrates with Kustomize that lets you kind of generate the entire set of KubeBuilder specific config files. So rather than building it during init time and writing the files to disk, the idea is when you're running Kustomize, like as you're running make deploy or make install, at that point is when, like on the fly, the default config gets generated and piped into kubectl. So I think that'd probably be a really good idea in this case to get behind that effort. And then Jesus, I think that kind of leads to your point a little bit, which is like, is this versioned? And at that point, config.gen is the thing that you could say it's versioned at this version of config.gen. And as long as we keep all of the Helm, Ansible, Go, Java, whatever else comes up in the future, as long as we keep all of those on the same version of config.gen, then I think this problem is solved.
Yes. Because I see what Camilla's trying to do, but the problem is without having something underlying like that to enforce it, then we're basically always going to be chasing this down.
Yeah.
And you can't go chase every single plugin done that we don't control and say you need to update. But if there was a version or a specification that outlined that, then it's easy to say, look, if you're writing a plugin, this is what the config needs to look like, and here's how we, move forward and how we're going to handle changes. Then I'm totally with that. I just don't want to go down chasing these things just to make them the same without having that underlying stuff done.
Just to clarify, my motivation was like the approach that we did worked, it's fine, but it's hard to keep maintained. So I would like to be sure that it's all everybody feels the same. Do you know how hard it is? Because I didn't want to make these GIFs. I would like to other person does to understand how hard it is to keep maintained in a long term. And the other point is, I would like to ask your help, folks, to support these two proposals. We have the Ctrl+J that can be a solution, and we have the plugin extract the config from Golang and KubeBuilder and make it is a plugin, a basic plugin, because now we have two pull requests there to improve the plugin system. That will be very helpful. You allow we use the plugins chains. You allow we create a project with more than one plugin as a base. So this also can solve in a short time as well. Things that Idido has been working on.
Go ahead.
I think they're all linked in here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a few things to say about this. I'll try and keep it short so we don't stay on this for too long. One is process related. So I know it's really tempting to just throw all of this in here as like one big meta issue, but this really isn't actionable at all. And I really think this should be broken up. Like you've already said here, like configuration files are one thing. This is kind of nebulous, so maybe not this being a good candidate for a new issue, but this particular one is a good candidate for a new issue. And that will actually help us work on these things rather than just saying, we need to align all of this stuff. I would rather have like a meta issue specific to alignment and then have like these things broken out than just one big issue like this. Because like if you assign yourself to this, you were saying, I'm going to do this alignment myself.
Yeah.
That's what you're committing to.
Yeah, the task in my mind was like, because this I want to clarify the reasons, the motivations for mailing. I raised that, it was like more to ask the support for we try to prioritize and to help in the KubeBuilder for we try to find a better solution. And the other thing is like, okay, I will do as you said, as you suggest. So I will use the first step of this task is like, what is the difference, and raise the issues. So I will do that. I will use this issue if you allow me to do this job, to broke the other ones.
So you're saying that you want to break these out into individual.
Yeah, I will do that.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. And so that's from a process perspective, what I want to address. The other thing is, so let's take a step back here about this config directory stuff, right? we are effectively saying, based on the conversation that we just had, that every operator plugin that we accept into the Operator SDK has to have this config directory. So that is a hard prerequisite. And therefore we need to explicitly state that somewhere, that like if your base plugin doesn't have this config directory with these files in it, then it won't work with the Operator SDK. Do we want to say that? Like that's a pretty big thing to say. And I will note that the Java plugin developers they already have a way to generate manifests for their operator that doesn't look anything like the config directory. And apparently, according to them, they've been talking to a lot of Java operator developers, and that is the way that they would like to work with manifests.
Okay, but
so we're already seeing a deviation from the config directory.
But then my question is you SDK able to work with this Java operator as it is now? Or should it be required some alignment? Then my second point is, I think if we define we can define in upstream, for example, let's move it now with the plugin system, that is what we have already, and use the config chain as alpha, because I believe that it's more or less this idea, and try improve that when it is be mature enough, and if the community accept that, we can just replace the config base by the generator one, you know?
I'm talking about a more fundamental problem, which is, what if an operator plugin doesn't use configs at all in the way that we're saying? Like there's no customized usage at all.
How will you use the SDK to integrate if we put the operator Java now inside of the SDK, supported by SDK, how will you do the stuff that is responsibility?
Yeah, how will we use phase 2 plugins? Well, that's exactly the question I'm posing, is like, do we we basically can't accept operators that don't use this config directory. So as maintainers of the Operator SDK and community members of it, we need to make sure that everybody else knows, if they want to contribute a plugin to the Operator SDK, then that config directory needs to be there. And I want to challenge you and say, like, does that requirement need to exist? Like, do we actually have to have that config directory? Well, for the Operator SDK phase 2 plugins, like, yes, we need that. So if that's the case, then we need to state that somewhere.
If we don't have the problem in my mind is like, we can end up in a situation in the future, like, if blah 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 do this, if blah 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 do that, you know, it'll be very hard to maintain. But I agree with you as well. Maybe people, I doesn't know if the Java operator, they doesn't know how the customizer works, and they just did in the way that they thought it was the best approach.
So it's definitely been a goal for SDK explicitly not to require a queue builder or SDK provisioned or initialized project. So I think part of this question is like, well, what commands are we talking about here? And it seems like it's like the generate bundle stuff, right? And generate package manifest. Because those are the things that indirectly at least interact with the config directory. But if you look at the makefile, it is indirect, right? Like we're just calling customize, blah, 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 piping that into an operator SDK command. So at the end of the day, the fact that customize is being used is kind of an implementation detail of our particular scaffolding use of the plugins that we're using. And from the operator SDK binary standpoint for running those commands that require some manifest input, doesn't matter where it came from, it's just standard in. So I think I would agree with Eric. And I realize, like, yeah, we're talking about phase 2 plugins that basically write some more customized stuff. But I think we talked about this in the context of the Queue Builder project, which is the plugin has to be smart enough to detect whether it's compatible with the project or not. I mean, I think we're really talking about two separate things here. On the, we're talking about like scaffolding side of Operator SDK, and we're talking about integration with the OLM side of Operator SDK, and they're kind of two different things with, in my opinion, kind of two different goals. The init and the create side, like, well, of course, like those things are going to write some version of the config directory, or they're going to use config gen or something. And if we've got plugins going on there, then we kind of have this expectation that you're using Operator SDK in the context of doing init and create, and therefore the config directory stuff will be there. But on the side of the OLM integration, none of that holds water anymore, right? We don't expect that to exist. We just expect you to pipe us some manifest YAML into the generate commands. I don't know if I'm rambling, but in my mind, like I think we don't really have a huge problem on either side of this issue.
Yeah, if we don't have a lot of plugins, it's easier. But if we have many of them that you want to work with all types, then it starts to be complicated. It depends how much increase it is stuff.
I think it's like a carrot and a stick.
It's only complicated, in my opinion, is if you are maintaining all of them.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say it's like a carrot and stick thing. At some point, I think SDK, we're going to maintain the core set, and we're going to try to open it up to the community more. And we can say up front, like if you want to integrate with this style of templating, like manifest templating, here's the requirements for your plugin. If you don't, here's what you'll have to build yourself for your plugin.
Yeah,
and I think that's totally fine.
I was thinking a statement like that, like, okay, we recommend you to use, like, let's say the control gen, use the control gen to create the base of the config. But if you don't use it, it's fine, but you need to, the plugins provided by the tool will not work for your project. You need to create your own plugins and to maintain your own plugins, or customize a plugin for your type, something like this. No?
Yeah. I think though, like at the end of the day, it comes down to the plugin having the detection necessary to say whether it supports what it sees in the set of files that it's working on, right? So yeah, we can talk about kind of what those expectations are, but I don't think we need like a hard and fast, you must do X, Y, and Z, because some plugins might have a very narrow requirement set that actually you might be able to do something a little bit out of the ordinary, but still be compatible with the plugin.
Sure.
I know we're getting nebulous here, but.
Yeah, I think I think we could like try to solve this problem for us to make easier our life, to make it easy, maintain what is common, and we focus just in the caveats and in Kube Builder as well. Allow the more people create stuff, nice stuff, plugins stuff, things like that, and then
I think
so because we
decide.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Just because we have a bunch more issues to get through, I'm going to say, let's put this in the milestone for now. And I'm going to add the needs discussion label to this as well.
Sorry, thank you for
exactly
too much time with this stuff. Sorry.
No, that's fine. This is important. And then if you could create issues for each one of these things.
I will.
That's great. Okay. Where to place setup code in Go operator? Trying to implement setup code that reads existing CRs from the cluster, update their statuses. Oh, what? This is funny. So I think I see what they're saying. They're like, I want to run some things before the controller is actually set up. All right. So this is basically a controller runtime question where you can inject runnables that will run at the beginning of controller startup and pipe them into the manager. So this is, yeah, like a library question. So I will respond with the correct documentation links after this meeting. Error, failed to create API with Go KubeBuilder v3. Interesting. Oh, this is a Go 1.16 issue, isn't it, Camille?
Sorry.
This is a Go 1.16 issue.
Yes, I think I put that. I think just update the documents and clarify Go version. It'll be fine.
I wonder if this is one of the, remember that issue we had a long time ago where if you built Operator SDK with one version of Go and then tried to use a different one, you'd get weird errors with generating stuff. I wonder if it's possible if controller gen like had been built with a previous version, still stale on their file system somewhere. Like I wonder if they rebuilt controller gen with 1.16, if it would work. Not that we need to get into that level of detail necessarily, but if they really, really want to use Go 1.16, that might be a suggestion to try.
I think this was back when 1.14 came out and we were on 1.13. Because if anybody who built it with 1.14 had that problem.
So we should basically say like, here's a hard cap on which Go version you can use right now. Or what we should probably say instead is we built this, like these binaries were built with this Go version. And if you're not using that Go version, then behavior is not deterministic. Because you can check the Go version the binaries was built with by writing Operator SDK version.
Yeah, but I think for Operator SDK now, it doesn't matter because we don't do any of the Go package parsing stuff anymore, if I remember correctly. Well, I guess we do that a little bit with CSV generation. But I remember the problem really being with the controller tools set of stuff that used to be compiled into the SDK, but now is not. I don't know if that's still an issue anymore. I feel like I remember there being some work to switch to a different library that didn't have that problem, but it's been a while. So
there's still a problem if like if Operator SDK was built with like it's not a direct problem, but if you're using Operator SDK built with Go 1.15, we haven't tested any of these projects with Go 1.16 yet. If they want to use Go 1.16 there, then they might have problems, but we don't know if they are.
Yeah.
So we should like say you can use another Go version, but we don't know how it's going to work. Okay, and this is actually pretty important. So I would even say this is a release blocker. I'm sure a bunch of people are going to try and use Go 1.16 and see these problems. Are people okay with me adding a release blocker to this?
What are we blocking? Switching to 1.16?
No, documentation.
Oh.
It's fine. Yes. I think we can solve it 1 hour, less 30 minutes. So, or less.
I'll follow up with a comment about what needs to be done here. Would anybody like to take this on? I can do it if nobody else would like to. Okay. Update minimum Kubernetes cluster versions.
Yes, that was me. Someone pointed this out that they were looking at the installation, and in the guide we mention we need a Kubernetes cluster with, thank you, 111 and
Yeah.
yeah, and then the question was, is this still true? Is it do we work with something that old, or does it need to be updated?
I have a feeling the answer is no, because as we've upgraded through Go versions, like the core set of APIs probably hasn't changed that much, but their versions might have. And maybe a V1 didn't exist in 111 that we don't like see or use in end-to-end tests, or like gets discussed on a day-to-day basis, that might have been removed. So we don't test with it, so we don't know.
From an OpenShift perspective, basically OpenShift 4.5, I think, is like 116. So now the next question would be, I can totally update this, but the next question is, what should our values be?
I think the problem you get into here is that controller runtime is a dynamic client, and as long as you're using APIs that exist in a 1.11 server, then it works. So it's like super dependent, and I'm just kind of speculating here because, like you guys are saying, I don't know that we've tested it recently, but theoretically, as long as the APIs are compatible, then it works. So it really gets down, in my opinion, to like a question of API compatibility, because controller runtime is dynamic client. And I'm almost positive, like 95% certain, that the like protocols that are used between the client and the server in the REST endpoint format has not changed. So as far as like the client side of stuff goes, I think it's all still compatible with servers that old.
Yeah.
So it's a really hard question to answer, because it's like, well, it depends on like 6 different things.
Yep.
So this actually follows up on, I think, the Operator SDK version compatibility matrix issue, because we still need to update our documentation to point to the compatibility matrix.
I think that's the best bet. Yeah. Get rid of the exact versioning that we say, and say, like, here's the version matrix, here's the one that we tested against, therefore, here's the expectations you can have for plus or minus versions from here. And that's all documented in the matrix.
Yeah. I'm going to throw this into, well, actually, I can assign myself and put this in 1.6, because 1.5 is a compatibility matrix. Okay. Okay, it's exec. So it looks like they just want to be able to basically kubectl exec.
I can look and answer to this. I think this is almost like a usage of, and this might actually be covered when we update the Kate's module as well.
Oh yeah.
It just looks like what they're trying to do is just use Kate's exec, and the Python module, they can't find it.
Okay. So this might just be a dependency issue.
Either a dependency or, hey, this is how you're supposed to use it. So I would say triage support would be the thing. And then...
Right. Well, it does say that we're supposed to, that version of Kades is supposed to have that module, but it doesn't ship with our Ansible operator base image. So I think this needs to be investigated.
Okay. And it could also be then we missed a file in there or something.
Maybe. You said you wanted to take this on?
I can do it.
Cool.
You'll have to put it for 1.6 because I don't think it'll be. I'll look at it as soon as I can, but.
Operator SDK bundle validate should output JSON. For some reason, I thought it did this, but maybe we just talked about it and then it never happened. I think we'd still need to discuss what output format it would be in.
Yeah, just to clarify my motivation to open that, I'm working in a thing that I would like to get a index catalog, and you run a command that will audit all bundles. And to audit all bundles of some catalog, I would like to use SDK. So I would like to call the bundle validate and the scorecard, and then aggregate the results. So I was looking if it would be possible, we try make both commands return the same layout of result, because this would make easier.
That's I think that's particularly problematic because the scorecard output is the scorecard like V1 alpha 3 output type. So we basically have to make the bundle output that format, which might make sense, might not. I'm not really sure. And that would also have to be figured out in the API library. So this is probably be or that repo would probably be a better place to raise this issue.
Yeah, I doesn't know if he's in the API because the output format came from the APIs as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Because the scorecard, I was like, okay, it's not exactly the same, but if I cannot get as JSON as well. I remember that we were working something like a machine readable for the bundle validate, but when I use the help, I cannot see that anymore. I doesn't know if
I thought we had that too. Is it a hidden flag?
That is a great question.
If it's not a JSON, but it's still with a machine readable.
I thought I remember like a -- alpha JSON flag or something.
Yeah, me too. And I'm not sure where that is.
There's
there it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I do remember adding this. So this already exists. It's just hidden because it's like still alpha, or at least that's what we said back in the day. And it's like not a stable output format. But one thing we could do for right now is just keep this JSON alpha 1 output format type and remove the hidden bit so that people can still use it, but it's not stable. And then create an issue for stability, or rename this issue for stability.
Okay, I think you can put this for me as well. So can I put that like make this visible?
Yeah.
Really, thank you.
Do you want to do this for 1.6?
Can be, or
Cool.
really thank you.
No problem. Also, we are over time. I'm probably just going to keep going here. But if you need to drop, that's fine. Failed to start controller. Right. These warnings can be ignored. That's actually being addressed upstream. Must provide an object for reconciliation. So that's weird.
The
So
error that the cube config wasn't specified?
Yeah, that could be it too. But it looks like everything else started just fine. This looks more like a client-side problem than not being able to connect to the actual cluster. I think it's because they didn't pass in the resource flag here, so no resource gets created. Although I'm surprised that this works because the manager built just fine. They would probably see a type error.
This is an error coming from controller runtime. It looks like because they didn't specify for in their setup with manager builder, if that object is nil, then you get that error. So either we need to go and relax the requirement for the controller runtime builder, or we need to tell them, I mean, right now the workaround is like, well, you have to use for if you're going to use the builder. If you don't want to use the builder, you can revert to the old way of setting up a controller manually.
But KubeBuilder allows you to do this, even though this isn't like an external API. So if you, but like, you have to use for regardless in the KubeBuilder way of setting things up, right?
If you're, well, if you use KubeBuilder and you use scaffold, I would have thought that if you scaffolded a controller without doing the resource, you'd still get for. But maybe not. Maybe that's something to go test and see what happens if you don't scaffold the types.
Right.
But regardless, like I bet you if you look at the actual code, whether it's generated code or whether they've changed it, they don't have for specified for their builder. But it's not required to have, like, you don't have to use the builder and you don't have to have a reconciler or controller that uses the, what is it called? There's a handler that's basically like a one-to-one, like, oh, if you see an event for this thing, then reconcile for me, which is what this for thing is. Like you can have a controller that has just a map func reconciler and that's it.
Right. But as far as what KubeBuilder provides by default, like I think if you are able to call this command, then
it should work.
The manager should work by default.
Yeah, honestly, like I think I was talking to someone else about this issue in an unrelated conversation. And my conclusion and takeaway was we shouldn't require that for object to be set. Like you should be able to build a controller without having that for specified.
Because the for defines the main type of API that the controller is looking at, right? And all the other ones are just additional watches.
Right.
So you should just be able to call it with a bunch of different watches.
Yes.
I think that's fair.
I can see an argument for saying, well, you know, you should always be reconciling the main one if it changes though. So I don't know. I feel like when I was looking at this, there was like a weird use case where it would have been nice not to have that. I think what it was might've been like there was one reconciler that there's two controllers for the same type. And one of them obviously had the for because they wanted to reconcile that one. And the other one used some separate watches. and I guess has a slightly different reconciler, which maybe is an anti-pattern, but I can see how, someone might want to do something like that.
That's weird, but yeah, perhaps, I'm sure there are use cases, and that's why the for is required. Like one of the controllers needs to own the CR or whatever. But yeah, regardless from the kubebuilder perspective, like this needs to work by default. So I think this is something that can be percolated upstream. Would anybody like to handle doing that?
Yeah, I can look into this.
Great, thank you. Well, and I'm gonna throw this into the backlog because we don't know the outcome of this quite yet, whether it's something that we have to do or something in upstream or control runtime. So, cool. And needs information probably. And the last one, memcache sample is not passing any operator, or it's not passing the scorecard. Camilla, are you still on?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. I try to run the command, the scorecard for the samples, and I face these two issues, which I think it's simple to solve, but I'd like to track. Because if you look in the tests, this is another point. I doesn't know why it doesn't fail in the integration tests that we have for the main cache, which I think the tests are running specific validators and not all.
Yeah. So in the E2E test, I don't know the exact reason, but we are specifically verifying that, making sure that these three tests fail. In the sense, we are asserting that these three tests can fail. So I don't know why we have made it to the fail state in the E2E test, but we are checking that.
It's so we expect these things to fail because by default the operator that's scaffolded will fail a few of these tests, which is expected to end okay. But in the actual sample itself, there are CSV markers that we can add, I think, to make these pass. And because we have control over how the sample is created, we can do that.
Yeah, I think the sample should pass. And this was my other concern. Do you know, we use the main cache sample in the integration tests, and we have a test for the scorecard. So are we really testing all options or just the select ones that we defined there? Should not fail in the integration test as well if you were using the same tests?
Well, we expect these to fail for a new operator because the operator SDK can't add a lot of these things by default. But I guess we could add some CSV markers by default, but
the integration tests are using the main cache, which is not a new one. It's like with the code scaffolded with the code.
Well, the integration tests aren't running scorecard.
Yes, they are. If you look, can you open tests go? Maybe it is go.
This is the integration test suite, and it's only running package manifest right now. If you're talking about the Go like scorecard stuff, then that's the end-to-end test.
Yeah, exactly.
And like,
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, we expect some of these to fail.
Ah, okay. I didn't check that. Okay. So we are getting there. That is failing, and we are passing. So okay. Thank you. Sorry, I was silly.
The other problem though is like we can't add these markers to Ansible and Helm scorecard tests, and those will always fail. So we need to find another way to do that for those two operator types.
Right now, I think it's just manual. Like if you're a user, you've got to put them directly into the CSV, maybe via customized patches.
Yeah.
And there might be other tests that look at CRD validations that we'd have to basically patch into the CRD after it's generated. At least on the Helm side, you know, the CRD never gets generated after just the initialization. So you can just go and change it.
Well, if you want to take this on, I can assign you. If not, if you don't have time to work on this, then that's okay. We can probably put a help wanted on this.
I can try. Let's see. I think at least can we forgo one? We can scaffold this data because we can scaffold the marks, and then I can give a look and spend help.
It would be really nice to have those on Ansible and Helm because I have gotten questions about like, how do I do that for Helm? And the answer is like, well, it's a little bit manual. So if we had something we could point people to, I think that would help a lot.
Yeah, I think this customized patch files for CSV is a good way to go. Just because there are like concrete files that we can point to.
You can assign it for me because anyway, it shows a problem for what I would like to do. so
Cool. 1.6 or a later milestone?
6, I think it's better. I don't think you'll be able to do it before.
Cool. Great. All right, that is all the issues. We are 15 minutes over, but all issues are in milestones. So good work.
We didn't.
Are there any?
Make that last
What's
week,
up?
so we didn't make last week, so it's compensating.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Are there any questions or concerns anybody would like to bring up before we end the meeting? Excellent. All right. Thank you very much for coming. Productive meeting, and I'll see you all, I think, next Monday.
Really, thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Really, thank you for all folks.
Sure thing. See you.
Thanks, Eric.